You have to be, if you want to create something special and amazing and different, then you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. You're going to sacrifice your weekends and your free time and your, the things that you're kind of used to, right? Maybe in your kind of everyday normal job life. And so I think you need to be ready to embrace that level of commitment to create something special. And I think it's, in this day and age, it's common for people to kind of talk about their side hustle, that they like have their normal job, but at the same time, they're kind of trying to create this entrepreneurial thing. Mm-hmm. And it's extremely rare that something that's a side hustle like ever really becomes something until you make it no longer a side hustle.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Little Fish Podcast, where we honor, celebrate, and learn from small business owners just like you. My name is Joel Eschenbach. Thanks for joining us again on this episode. Listen, like always, I'm excited about this episode. We've got the owners of Krav Maga all the way from Seattle, Washington. They're on the show today. So welcome to the show, Cat and Chau Lee.
Hey Joel, thank you.
Good to see you guys. Us. Yeah. It's fun to have you here. I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a while, and we've been talking about it a little bit. And it's good to have you here finally. So you guys, I want to jump right into it because you guys have a gym, but you don't have just a normal gym. People think, oh, we have a gym. Great. We know what that is. But Krav Maga Seattle is a very unique gym. So tell us about what is Krav Maga Seattle and why are you guys different?
Yeah, so Krav Maga Seattle we are a self-defense and fitness gym where people can come in, they can learn practical self-defense, and they can also get more healthy, stronger, more fit, so that they can just feel more confident. And we like to say that we help our members achieve their goals both inside and outside the gym. So yeah, we specialize in Krav Maga, which is a self-defense and combat system.
Very cool. So I forgot to introduce the dog. I mean, everyone's probably going like, we have another person here that was not.
Hey. Oh, she got
goes. She got nervous. She got it. That's awesome.
He's like, oh, okay, cool. Did you get shy?
Yeah. This is Gracie, our Rhodesian Ridgeback and gym dog. So we definitely, she brings a lot of personality to the gym as well.
She definitely does.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's so funny how I literally was going to introduce her and then she scampered away.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Check her a break.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll bring her back later.
Yeah, that's great. So back to the self-defense side. So it's almost like the self-defense is your primary focus. It's almost like the gym workout fitness side is a secondary goal in some ways, right?
I mean, I would say, so yes, Krav Maga is our core offering. It's what we specialize in. I would say it's what we really do best. And it's what most people come here for. They're looking for that practical self-defense solution that's different from a martial art, right? A martial art or a combat sport is something that you would train in more for you could have a tournament, right? Whereas with Krav Maga is more for the streets, for the scenarios that hopefully you would never find yourself in, but for a real self-defense scenario. So that's what brings people in. But we do have other offerings that really support our Krav Maga offering and make our students better Krav Maga practitioners. And so those offerings we have a very active kettlebell and overall fitness program, as well as a really strong kickboxing program, as well as wrestling, heavy bag, yoga, fitness. All of those things really support the Krav Maga offering so that our students can be the best Krav Maga self-defense practitioners possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you're located in a unique spot. Cho, you were saying that to me earlier. You're located in, you said kind of the tech hub area of Seattle, right?
Yeah, so we're located basically within the Amazon campus. We're about a block away from Facebook and a block away from Google downtown campus. So the area is called South Lake Union, and so it's generally a very busy and there's a lot of hustle and bustle. But things have been a little bit quiet, as you can imagine. So
with the coronavirus craziness, Yes.
Yes.
And it's interesting. We may get into that in a minute. We talk a little bit about challenges, but But I'm curious too, like it's just so people know, like what's the size of your gym? About how many members do you have? Approximately.
Well, right now, I think we're hovering around 400 members, like active members or so. At our peak, we were about 550. So, so we're about 400.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you guys are a good sized gym. You're not just like a tiny, not that there's anything wrong with the tiny boutique gym, but you've kind of outgrown that niche a little bit. And so I want to talk more in a minute about some of what you guys do. I love some of your approaches to things. And you're a lot of ways the epitome of this podcast, and that you guys are a small business. You take it seriously, you work hard, but you're smart about it. And I love your business model.
We try to be. Thanks.
Yeah,
and also,
a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. Don't we all, right? And also, we'll show some B-roll of the gym so that people watching can see what it's like. That'll give people a better idea, because you really have to see Krav Maga to understand it. It's hard to explain. I haven't done it yet. One of these days we'll get out there, and maybe Ryan and I will come out, and
that would be awesome.
Yeah. But I want to know too, how did you get into owning a gym? What was the trajectory of, you didn't wake up one day and say, all right, I'm going to run a gym of 500 members. How did you guys get there?
Yeah. Do you want me to tackle that one?
Boom.
All right. So, so a little bit of background. So it's a little bit of a long story. So Kat and I are very long-term thinkers. We always go for the long game. And so the story begins way back in Toronto, Canada. Okay. So I was working for Microsoft Canada at the time, and Kat had just transferred from Microsoft corporate here in Seattle to Toronto, and we were dating. And at the time, I would say I was still, when we first met, I was still very into the whole corporate life, right? And specifically at the time where Microsoft Canada, the online portion of the business was it was still very small, right? So it felt like a startup. But over time it grew, and it got bigger and bigger. And then with the challenges of having a bigger organization, there's the corporate challenges you always face, right? So Catherine and I were actually on a date. I took her on to there's an island just off of the city. It's called the Toronto Island. And we just rented cruiser bikes, the whole cheesy thing, right? And this was the first time in my life I had ever said to Kat, I said, or to anybody, that I just wasn't happy working at Microsoft. Mm-hmm. Or I just wasn't feeling fulfilled anymore. And to put a little bit more context into it, I had been teaching and training Krav Maga for Krav Maga Toronto for many, many years. I would volunteer my time. I'd teach, I think, around like 12 hours a week.
Okay.
On top of my Microsoft job and everything else.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and so when we were biking on the island, I was finally like sharing this with Kat, and she said, "Well, have you ever thought about opening up your own Krav gym?" And I was like, "Brr?" Like just stopped. Asked me, like, it never even occurred to me. And I think from that moment on, we started. The idea was seeded, and I think it took some time for us to sort of figure out what that would look like, right? And being loyal to my coach, I would never want to open up a competing gym within the same territory in the same city. Mm-hmm. So we started thinking about just the long-term plan, right? Because we were getting pretty serious, and we wanted to eventually move back to Seattle. Yeah. And so that's how it kind of got started, right? Which is the idea of, well, if we ever move to Seattle, we should seriously investigate opening a Krav gym. And
that was in 2009.
That was 2009.
Okay.
So we didn't open our doors until 2014, right? Wow. So it was a 5-year ramp, like runway. And there was a lot of, I'm not going to bore you with all the details of it, but there was quite a bit of strategic maneuvering for us to get to back to Seattle. And but then eventually we just decided that it was time to pull the plug. And reality is, it's not that Microsoft was a terrible place to work. Don't get us wrong. We loved working at Microsoft. The value that we got from the experience and just the business acumen that we acquired is just it was just amazing. Priceless. It's priceless, mm-hmm. And it really helped us really launch our business. I think what really made us to pull the trigger was the fact that we just wanted to follow what we were passionate about. Right. And I was definitely passionate about providing great Krav Maga self-defense training for people. Cat has always been involved in fitness and really wanted to share that. And I think you can talk a little bit more about how the benefits of what we got out of our training and how we wanted to share it with other people. So
yeah, I mean, just kind of echoing what Chau said, we decided to follow our passion. Obviously there's that risk involved, right? With leaving the security of the corporate world, and leaving that behind and jumping headfirst into the risk of entrepreneurship, but you just have to embrace it.
Yeah.
Did you want me to talk about what we learned at Microsoft or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So exactly. I would say a lot of gym owners, not all of them, but I would say a good number of them, decide to open a gym because they're already a trainer, right? That's what they're already doing. They're like, I'm a personal trainer, or I'm already a coach of something, and I'm ready to kind of take that step to do my own thing. And that's amazing. But I think what really helped us so much is that we were actually coming from the corporate world. So we were corporate career people,
Yeah.
And at Microsoft, what was so amazing about the more than 8 years that we both spent there was we learned marketing and sales and customer service and how to do a business plan, an annual business plan, how to create a really great value proposition, how to do pricing, how to create something that you can market and that people are really going to want to be a part of. And so all of those business skills are what we think, in theory, gave us a bit of an edge in our industry so that we, in those areas at least could make fewer mistakes as we learned, So I think that was a huge advantage that we had, and it made it really fun to start. So
yeah, no, it's like you had an MBA just from on-site working with Microsoft. You learned all those skills, which you're right. I mean, most business owners get into whatever they're into, even not just gym owners, but most small business owners, they get into it because they're passionate about doing whatever that work is. And then you go, oh, I've got to figure out how to run a business. I didn't get into this to run a business. I got into this to do more of what I love. So yeah, that's really good. Really important stuff. And also, just a little bit of your background too, Kat. Chau, you had mentioned that, Kat, you were involved in fitness. You're like a competitive kettlebell. You compete in the kettlebell world, right? Am I right on that?
Not competing, but that is my area of expertise. So I am a Strong First elite instructor. So Strong First is known kind of around the world as being the top kettlebell, the school of strength. It was founded by Pavel Tsatsouline, who is kind of the kettlebell guy who brought Russian style, hard style kettlebell from Russia to the US. And so it's a great, highly recommend that you check out Strong First. You can go to strongfirst.com and look up any instructors and schools in your area. But that's been life-changing for me. I started we decided to add kettlebells as the best strength offering to KMS because it really makes sense from a fighting and sort of martial arts and self-defense standpoint. The movements are very, built on safety and training, but also have those the explosive movements that you need to be a really great fighter. So kettlebells have been helping fighters get really strong, really fast, really good for a long time. So we chose to go the hard style or Russian style kettlebell route when we were deciding what type of strength trainings to add into our gym. Because as a gym, you have tons of options, right?
Yeah.
You could do barbell, you could do CrossFit, you could do just high intensity interval training, you could do kettlebell sport, which is a different style, but we chose Russian hardstyle kettlebell training through the Strong First system. I've been training in it since late 2014 and certified since 2015. And yeah, totally changed my life in terms of how I treat my own training and how I teach my students. And it's an amazing system. So yeah.
I love that. So you guys both brought your backgrounds together, mixed with your background from Microsoft on the business side of things, and you jumped in, started the gym. I do have a question. Some of that planning process you said, did you have to come up with that capital because you've got to buy a building or rent a building? I mean, was that part of the process too?
The idea was this. Well, we both had Microsoft salaries, both Microsoft incomes, and we decided as soon as we moved here that, okay, if we were really serious about opening up our own Krav Maga school, our own gym, then we need to start thinking about capital. And rather than borrowing money from the bank or getting some sort of, venture capital loan, et cetera, then so we decided, okay, well, you know what? Microsoft pays their employees very well. And so we figured that we can easily live off of one income, right? And live below our means. So we didn't go and buy a fancy boat or anything, or anything like that, right? We just kind of, kept it very modest, bought used cars. We did, nothing too flashy.
No giant house renovations.
No giant house renovations, bought a modest house when we moved here. So, and then we basically lived off of Catherine's salary and we just bank fine. And over 2.5 years. And so that was where we got
2011 to 2014. 2.5 years. Yeah.
And that's great. I love that. And that's such the smart way to do it.
Yeah. And I think we were profitable within the first 3 months of opening. Like, let's be real. Like, we didn't have any debt going into it. So.
Right. That doesn't count like covering the upfront costs of starting or opening the business. But in terms of profitable, in terms of like in the month of April, covering that 1 month's cost for sure. That was, we were able to do that pretty quickly. And then over the long term, you just work towards basically paying yourself back, right? For that a significant upfront investment, all the equipment, the lease, and, we did have to do a complete build out of the gym. So, yeah.
Did you guys start with like other staff, or was it just you two?
So we started off with the two of us, and we also hired another person to manage the front desk. And and
Betsy.
Oh, and Betsy, yes.
Yeah, one yoga instructor.
And one yoga instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's still with us, actually. So we basically started off with, a Krav class. So here were our offerings. We had a Krav Maga class, we had a bag class, like a heavy bag class, you can see in the background, a fitness class, and a yoga. That's it. We had 4 classes.
4 classes.
Yeah, or 4 options. Right?
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So you started, in so many ways, started it off much smarter than many business owners do, including myself. But it's so interesting to hear how different people take those risks. And you guys really took a calculated risk, which I love that. I love thinking through that. And even for people who are in that place where maybe they're working a full-time job and they have a side hustle or they have a dream, for me, that's just such a brilliant way to do it, is think through that long game and save some money. Imagine that. Save some money.
Yeah. We did it back then. I'll say that there are always challenges in business, but and I do have to give it to Chau because he left Microsoft a year before I did, and so he was like the true pioneer. Literally had to learn everything: the CRM system, the payroll system, the everything. And then I left Microsoft a year after. I was still obviously helping a lot, but I mean, he basically was the complete trailblazer for that first year. So.
No,
that's awesome.
Cat's being super modest. I mean, I would say that first year, I feel like Cat did the majority of it, because not only was she holding her full-time position at Microsoft, she was also coming here like literally after work and working the front desk and teaching classes. And like she was working 2 jobs for a year. And like, I'm just so lucky to have an amazing wife and amazing business partner, because not very many people would be willing to do that, right? Yeah. So
you guys are awesome. You guys, I love it. I love it.
I was lucky to have a very cool manager at Microsoft. She was cool, right? I'm like, gotta go at 3:30 p.m. She was like, no problem, So it was lucky.
That's great. I love it. All right, so you're moving down the track. You got the gym open. What are some, and you can answer, you can pick whatever ones you want, but what are some big challenges you've run into over the years?
Want me to go?
Yeah, you go for it.
Well, isn't that just entrepreneurship, is just messing up as you go along? So for sure. I would say one of the bigger ones is, we mentioned earlier all the experience that we had gained at Microsoft. And one of the big things, missing pieces in our skill set and our experience and our knowledge when we opened the gym was leadership, just leading other people. We both were individual contributors and not managers in our corporate lives. And so while we did learn a lot about everything, right, running a business, we came into this role not necessarily having a lot of
like people
experience
management.
of people management. And as you know, I feel like most entrepreneurs would agree that it's one of the most difficult. It can be one of the most sort of sensitive areas in terms of how to grow a team, how to grow people under you, and how to, retain them and make sure that they're feeling great about what they're doing. So, we've definitely had to learn from our own mistakes and learn from a lot of books as well in terms of leadership. Some of our favorites are any of Michael Hyatt's books, Jacko Willink, Extreme Ownership, Mark Divine. We like Navy SEAL authors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we've come a long way, right, in 6 years. And some of the things that we've learned are know your values and live them and make decisions based on them. And so it took us a few years to get to that point, but we defined our core values a couple of years ago, and it's really helped give us that compass of when you need to make a tough call, tough decision. So our values are accountability, leadership, trust, humility, grit. Thank you. Grit.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the 5. We could obviously talk more about those if you want.
Yeah.
But when it does come down to the inevitable tough conversations, tough decisions that you have to make as a leader of people, it really comes down to your core values, and that's what helps you know what to do.
And I think it's just more than the values help you more than just leading the people on your team. Oh, sorry, we have UPS delivery.
A few moments later.
Okay, cool.
All right.
We're talking about
core values.
Middle of talking about core values and how not only does it help you lead people and have those tough decisions with people that you manage or that are your employees, but it also helps you in your business decisions, right? So it's like if our like one of the things we did learn as well too is that not only is it necessary sometimes to let go of people, like your people that staff, but sometimes it's necessary to let go of customers as well too, right? And
if they don't align to your values.
If they don't align to our values. And so it's like, it's like we try to live our values in our personal life and our business life. We firmly believe that your values shouldn't be different, right? Your personal and your business life should not be different. Your values should be different, right? They should be the same, and you should be living your life that way. And, we've discovered that, it's okay to not have a customer who doesn't live by these values, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not aligned and you're not satisfying their values and they're not kind of, fitting in with yours, right? So it's okay to do that.
That's good. I love that, because if not, what happens is inevitably there's resentment that happens. You begin to resent the customer, or they cause trouble, and you're like, what's happening here? Where's the disconnect? And it's sometimes, like you said, staff or customers. I'm glad you brought up the customer side of things too, because most people think I can't let go of a customer. That's business,
right? And that's kind of like I wouldn't say the trap, but I think that's the kind of like the common thing that as entrepreneurs, as all entrepreneurs, we're like, everything, the customer's right. We want to make sure we please the customer, and like, oh my God, if I let go of this customer, and it's just at the end of the day, if your listeners and viewers they've never read The Pumpkin Plan by Michalowicz, that's
a good one.
Such a good book,
that is
right?
a good book.
So that's something we just we're a firm believer in, which is like, hey, look, like you need to cater to your top customers because they're the ones that are more like you, and they're the ones that are aligned with your business and your values. And, how can you help them more, right? So. Yeah.
And the more you help them, the more they're going to be a cheerleader for your business and share the word and become your biggest brand advocates. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. I love that. So core value. Oh, what was that? Did you say something? Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought that was Ryan who said something. So that was one challenge, and that core values become kind of the light that you use to shine on, whether it's your staff or issues you're having with your staff or issues with customers. Is there any other kind of major challenges that have come up through the years with you guys you can think of?
I mean, we're sitting in one right now.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, let's talk about that. Why not? Let's talk about that. Yeah. So at the time of recording, no matter when people are listening to this, that's the coronavirus outbreak. And you guys being in Seattle have had one of the first, I don't know if you're the ground zero. I don't know if it's the first.
We are.
You are, yeah.
The epicenter. Yeah. I mean, definitely it's a big challenge that we're facing right now. So yes, right now, many people in Seattle are working from home. They're mandated to work from home. Mm-hmm. Schools are closed for at least a month or two. Mm-hmm. And just in general, people are either required or they're just choosing to just not really leave their home or leave as little as possible and just completely minimize impact with other people. And so as a gym, obviously, that seriously impacts our business because our members come here to train. So we've seen, I mean, it could be a lot worse. You know, right now over the past couple of weeks, we've seen about a 20% decline in attendance.
Which isn't bad.
That's manageable.
Really?
And then a much greater decline in new people coming in. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we also believe it could get quite a bit worse before it gets better. And so, you know, how does that feel, right? As a small business owner, that is one of the many small businesses in this area that are dependent on the Amazon and Facebook and Google corporate offices here and all of those customers, right? Several of our part-time instructors work for these companies as well as many of our members. And so, I mean, in some ways that makes you feel a bit helpless as a small business owner because we know that people they're not going to be coming in, right? A certain number of people are just going to stay home for a long period of time. And that is a major impact on the business. And we just have to wait for the storm to pass and adapt as necessary. But it also makes us feel so grateful for our members who are so loyal. You know, they're coming in, they're here training, just being awesome, being their awesome selves. And they obviously trust us as we've always been one of the cleanest, safest gyms ever, but even now we're upping it even more, like our cleaning and disinfecting protocols. But we've always had an extremely high level of hygiene and cleanliness. And so it's amazing that we have a really loyal customer base that we've built that trust with, right? And they're like, yeah, like I'm coming in, you know, I still want to have my life and my training and my community here. And also just thankful for our staff too, because we do have amazing team members who are working really, really hard to make it happen here. So
Yeah, I think for us as well too, and to echo a bit and to add on to what Kat's saying is that, you know, we also have been very proactive in communicating with our members and with the public as well too, and sort of all the measures that we have always taken to keep the facility super clean and have upped our level as well too. And we're just in constant communication with our member base, right, to say, hey, here's what's going on, and you know, we do have set protocols for them. Look, if you're sick or you think you're coming down something, like stay away. But that's really no different than what they would, what I would tell them 2 years ago, right? Like, so one of the reasons why we have the Cleanest Gym is because I'm actually an extreme germaphobe. Yeah, it's really funny. Right? Like, I'm a black belt Krav Maga instructor. Been doing this for like 20 years, but just don't like being touched by people, right? And so the minute we open, and I'll tell you, and because we're going back to this whole cleanliness thing, it's like when we opened up Krav Maga Seattle, or before we did, Kat and I decided on a few things, right? On a few absolutes. One, the gym has to be clean. Like it has to be. When you walk in the door, you should feel like this is like a boutique studio where, like, it smells fresh, regardless of how many bodies were in here like an hour before. There are no dust bunnies on the ground, like there's nothing, like no garbage. Like, everything has to be pristine. That was one. The second condition was that it had to be in an environment that was friendly for everyone, right? Regardless of age, sex, gender, gender preference or what, whatever, right? So just like, we wanted to make it a very inclusive environment. And so The reason being is that, I've been training at different martial arts gyms and different Krav gyms and, my entire life. And I generally get the vibe. I kind of get the vibe of what most of the gyms are like, right? So,
right.
And so anyways, and this is just a long way of saying that, from the very beginning, we've always believed in just having a very clean, safe facility.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you do you want to hear a really horrible story?
Absolutely. I would love to. Yeah.
So what's Oh no.
Okay. So always pride ourselves in how clean our gym is. I train here all the time, etc. A few years ago, I was like, I'm going to get into jiu-jitsu. I want to get a little bit more ground experience. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I signed up to this gym that was kind of close to where we are. And, and I did some private lessons, and then I actually did a couple classes, and I kind of rolled with some of the students. And then within 4 weeks, I got ringworm.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. It just took me.
And it was like that,
instant.
Within 1 month of going to another gym.
Yeah. To do his training. So then, obviously I stopped going there. Obviously I don't have ringworm anymore. But, it was
cured.
I've been cured. But it's disgusting, right? It's just sort of, so for me, it was sort of like that just kind of really solidified like our belief in having a very safe environment, not only just like partner safety in terms of like your techniques and everything else too, but just general hygiene. So that's what we've been communicating with our member base, with the public, and in terms of like, hey, here's how we've always done it, but here are additional measures that we're taking.
Yeah.
And I think until we get more information from our governmental authorities on hey, what next, we're just going to continue to operate as is and continue to encourage our members who are healthy to come in and train. But the minute they feel they're sick or they've been in contact with someone who's sick, just stay home. Just stay home. But then again, we also want to encourage people to do what's right for them, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, but what are you comfortable with? We're totally fine with that as well too. So
yeah. I love that. There's so many things of what you said that I love. One thing is that, like you said, you're providing this clean environment. But yeah, and by the way, I have been in some pretty nasty gyms before. You walk in and that smell, you're just kind of like, ugh. Did they ever clean this place? But I love that. I even saw with you guys on Facebook that you, like you said, you were communicating with your members. I think that's one of the important things you brought to the service for me was that over communicating almost with your loyal members or your loyal customers. I think that is so important, especially in times like this. The other thing that people may not know if they don't know Krav very well is that it's a very full contact, right? Because there's a lot of gyms where you don't touch anybody else. You may be in close proximity. You may share weights, but you guys are all over each other. The people when you're doing Krav. I mean, I watch the videos. It's like it's sweaty and there's a lot of contact. So the fact that you're upping or you have always upped your game with that I love that. It's really good stuff.
Can I have a thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that so what brought us together in terms of Notion Design Group and KMS was StoryBrand, right? That's how we found you. Yeah. And I was actually reviewing our brand script last night, just skimming it. And what we had, sorry, for those of you listeners who may not be familiar with StoryBrand, it's Building a StoryBrand, Don Miller's book.
Yes.
Best marketing book ever.
Yes.
Read it.
Yes.
But that's how we found Joel. And in our brand script, we had written like who's the villain, right? And there were two main villains or problems, right, that we're solving for our customer, or at least you know what I mean. So one of them was dirty, stinky, meathead-filled gyms that don't feel, they're the opposite of clean, right? So you feel kind of grossed out being there, and then also maybe tend to be not as inclusive feeling, right, to everybody people.
That's right.
And we had put that in there, right? We're like, we don't want to be that, and then the other one that we had written down was kind of feeling like a faceless number at like a big box gym, right? Again, like nothing wrong with either of those business models, but it's just not what we wanted to be. We wanted our members to come in, feel included, no matter who they are, no matter what they look like, no matter what their life situation is, feel safe, feel like it's a really clean environment, that they're not going to catch ringworm. and also feel like everybody, like it's a community, right? And we really put a lot of effort into creating a warm, inclusive, close-knit community. And if you read any of our testimonials, I mean, that always gets called out where people are like, I found my second family. And so like such a huge, like, that's what makes it all worth it, of just the late nights and the lost weekends and the huge sacrifices of opening and growing a business. Like, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Well, before we wrap up, I have a couple questions for you. One is, if you had something to say to somebody who is getting ready to start a business at this point, what would you say? What would be the one thing that would stand out that you'd say to them if they're getting ready to make the leap?
that is like the question.
Yeah, I mean, geez, at this point too, given our economic conditions, like, so at the time of the recording,
yeah,
you know, we're
Major recession.
Yeah, we just hit a recession. So, and end of our bull market. But
right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Can I say like three things?
You can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Only one thing. Okay.
You can say whatever you want.
First, I would say a little book list, right? A reading list, recommended reading list. So read Mike Michalowicz's books. Pumpkin Plan, Profit First was also very helpful.
Awesome.
I'm also gonna throw Jacko's book in there.
Yeah.
Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
It's really good. And then read Building a StoryBrand by Don Miller.
Yeah. Nice plug.
Those are the three. Yes. Yeah. I mean, amazing marketing book. That was a game changer for us.
Yeah.
So that's my reading list for the person who's thinking about starting a business.
And real quick, let me interrupt you. They're coming out with a second book next week called Marketing Made Simple, which is a sequel to Building a StoryBrand. A plug for that one too, because that one's going to be really, really good. So
on our list.
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll
go
be
ahead.
on the stair machine listening to it.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is it's really hard. And you have to be, if you want to create something special and amazing and different, then you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. You're going to sacrifice your weekends and your free time and your, the things that you're kind of used to, right? Maybe in your kind of everyday normal job life. And so I think you need to be ready to embrace that level of commitment to create something special. And I think it's, in this day and age, it's common for people to kind of talk about their side hustle, that they like have their normal job, but at the same time, they're kind of trying to create this entrepreneurial thing. And it's extremely rare that something that's a side hustle like ever really becomes something until you make it no longer a side hustle. Like, you need to give it all of your energy, all of your focus. And so I think there are a lot of people out there who they want to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know a lot of people who are, whoever it is in your life, that they're talking about their entrepreneurial thing that they want to do. And I would say, less talk, just do it and give it 100%, because that's the only way that you're going to create something really awesome.
Yeah. God, that's good. You're preaching now.
Yeah.
Get ready for the soapbox. Yeah,
I love it.
Cat's 100% right. I mean, I think in our experience, so we've, it's been 6 years, we consider ourselves, somewhat successful in our business. I mean, not to toot our own horns, but I agree. 4 awards in 6 years. We've been featured many times, on, news outlets and the papers, et cetera. So, we're doing well for ourselves. And I think because of that, a lot of people will come up to us, and people we know, friends, they say, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, or I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Like, I've heard people say, like, oh, I want to open my own CrossFit gym. I want to start my own plumbing business, or I want to do this. And it's just sort of, my feedback to them is like, well, you can be a wantrepreneur or an entrepreneur, right? So it's sort of like, which one do you want to choose, right? So for me, it's like, stop being a wantrepreneur. Just, if this is something that you want to do, then say, I'm going to do it, right? Make a plan, right, and execute on that plan.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, it's going to be in 6 months. Like, like Kat and I were like, it was a 5-year plan. It was like super strategic on how we opened up KMS so that we wouldn't be caught in situations where it's like, oh no, we have to, pay back the bank, and like, we have to make this payment, et cetera. Like, we planned it so that we had enough capital, enough resources, the right people in place when we opened, so that we could focus on giving a really good product and service, and without the stress of all the other things, right? So yeah, so my advice is like, stop being a wantrepreneur, be an entrepreneur, and just do it, right? And then I think the other thing I would say to all the would-be entrepreneurs is, don't hire your friends ever. Ever. Yeah. And here's why. And I don't want to be cynical about it, but it's like human nature, and what we've discovered and what we've learned over the years is that people will always do what's best for them, right? So you have friends who are super loyal, and before everything is great, and you guys are your childhood home was their childhood home, everything could be fantastic. But as soon as there's a paycheck between the two of you, that changes the dynamic of your relationship, regardless of how close you are. And while some people can make it work, what we found is that the vast majority of people, as soon as that happens, then there is sort of this, I don't know, this barrier, this challenge that you both have to sort of navigate, right? So, and it changes the dynamic of your relationship. So, big advice. Don't hire your friends from the start, because either you're gonna lose a really good friend, or you're gonna have
it's going to be a tough business relationship. Yeah,
it's going to be a tough business relationship.
And I think, like you said, there's always exceptions, but yeah, I can see that to be true too a lot of times. And I love also what you said about don't be a wantrepreneur. I don't know if that's been used. That needs to be a book. That's a book title, Joe. I mean, I'm literally imagining the cover. Don't be a wantrepreneur.
Heck yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I can't take full credit for that. I actually heard it from a podcast from Alex Hormozi, who's kind of like a gym guru.
Okay, gotcha.
So he's way more hardcore. He's just very. I love how real. So if those of you who are thinking about opening up a gym, listen to Alex Hormozi's podcasts. I understand there's a lot of this whole gym launch stuff, and it's whatever, and you take it with a grain of salt. But a lot of the stuff he has to say in his podcast is like bang on, and he's real, right? So if you're sensitive to swearing and just being told the cold hard truth, then don't listen to it. But he dishes out the truth about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's just his podcast. Yeah.
I love it. One more final question: what does success look like for you guys? I don't know, moving forward, let's say 2 to 5 years from now.
Ooh. Oh gosh. Do you have time to kind of sort of listen to where we're at right now?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So is it the pumpkin plan that talked about this, or was it Profit First? Maybe it was, but remember that analogy of like Frankenstein's monster?
Yes.
Profit First.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mike Michalowicz.
Yes. Mike's stuff. Yeah. All of his stuff is good. But I don't remember which one.
Right? Yeah. So that's how we feel at this point right now in our business, where it's sort of like, to quote Mike Michalowicz, which is like, look, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're just starting off, you feel like you're like Dr. Frankenstein, right? And so you have a little bit of capital, you have these skills, and and you're trying to create this business or this life, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't know if I can do it, and then you do it, and you're like, oh, I created life, right? It's alive, right? And you're so happy, and things are going like so well. And then over time, this thing you create, it starts growing, and all of a sudden becomes this monster that you're like, I didn't sign up for this. This is not what we expected it to happen, right? Yeah. And so
it becomes harder to control.
Yeah, it's harder to control. Yeah. It starts like ruining your life. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's killing people.
But it becomes this thing that just sort of like, that's not what you envisioned, and that's not what we had planned, right? Because it takes a life of its own. And I think that a lot of businesses, that happens to a lot of businesses, where it's like, in the early stages, you were like just so happy that it's actually working, right? That you're actually, wow, making money, and we're, but then it just goes, right? I think that's where we're at with our business at this point, where we're like, Yeah, I mean, like I said, at one point we're at 550 members, right?
Yeah.
And we have 6,500 square feet in downtown Seattle. You know, and being where we are, you know, real estate is not cheap, right? And so, you know, we have challenges of a growing gym, a successful gym, which is like we hit capacity. Like every 2 years we hit capacity. So to put in perspective, we opened in 2014. By 2016, we didn't have enough room in this room. So we're like, okay, we're gonna go talk to the neighbors, say, hey, how do you guys feel about moving?
Yeah.
We're gonna find an agent for you. We're gonna help you find a new space that's, you know, it's more suitable for you, and we're gonna take over your space. And they agreed to that, so we acquired another, you know, 2,500 square feet, so that we could, you know, keep up with demand.
Yeah.
But then, you know, so that was in 2017 when we opened room 2, and now we're in 2020 and we're at capacity again, right? So it's sort of like, it's like, where does it stop, right? And there's only so much, you know, a business can afford in terms of overhead, right? Like, it's not like we can jack up our prices for our members, right? To cover for the taxes that the city is, you know, everything. So, you know, I think that's where Kat and I are right now. It's sort of like, we discovered that we have this thing that we created, and it may not necessarily be what we want for our future, because at the end of the day, you know, we have to live by our values and I think for us, it's like, what do we want, and it's what does success look like? I think it's based on, I think we were aligned in this one, is sort of like, how do we get to a place where we can live by our values every day, but still have, I don't know, it's hard for me to articulate.
Like space, it still have space in your life? Is that what you're talking about? Like a lifestyle thing? You're not working all the time, and
I think. Yeah, I mean, definitely like creating more margin in our life, and you know, eventually being able to have like a 5-day work week versus I would say we're more at a 6.5-day work week right now, basically.
Right. So
can we get down to a 5-day work week? And this is like for us in 2 years.
I love that. Yeah, but I love that because that's a little bit of a different type of goal, right? Sometimes it's like, we're going to grow, we're going to expand. But you're saying, yeah, maybe, but we're kind of at capacity. We want to balance our lifestyle with that. We don't want to get this out of control and take us over.
Yeah. No, we have been in the growth mindset for the majority of our business. And every year we would do our annual business plan, be like 2014 to 15, 2015 to 16, 2016 to 17, into 2018. And it was growth year over year, every year. And then we did kind of hit a point where things started to feel a bit unmanageable. It's very common, right, in that entrepreneurial journey, right, where it's like you start small, you grow, and then you hit a point of growth where it's going to require a massive change in your systems and your processes and your teams to continue to grow. And so do you want that, or do you want to sort of right size the business so that everything is sustainable without having to continue to grow? Because as we know, bigger is not always better.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
As we learn more, you know, as we like continue to make mistakes and learn from our mistakes and all the learnings from our mistakes, we are getting closer to understanding what right-sizing the business looks like, what having the right customers looks like, what it looks like to not have the customers that are not right for your business, and kind of, you know, being comfortable with being like, hey, we're not for everyone, but we are for these people who align to our values. So if you want to come in and train hard and be accountable for your own growth and be a really awesome member of our community and like work towards really aggressive goals and big goals and achieve those goals, that's what's going to transform your life, right? And you got to put in the work to do it. And those are the people that we want.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love it. You guys, it's so good. It's so good.
Just use all of her stuff.
No.
And just have me in the background smiling, or just like dub over my voice.
Yeah, just do a dub.
No, it's all good. And I feel like we could just talk and talk and talk. There's so many good things we've unearthed here in this conversation. But I do think, to speak to that point, is that is a journey each entrepreneur takes on their own. Is what is the right size? How far do we want to grow? And I mean, we're dealing with that ourselves a little bit, so I can totally relate. But for the sake of time, we're going to kind of wrap it up. We could probably go for another 20 minutes, but You guys have been so fun to talk to. This has been such a fun interview, and I think there's been a lot of really good nuggets in it for people to take away. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Chau, Cat, you guys are awesome. If anybody is in Seattle, if you go to Seattle, you got to stop by and try out Krav Maga Seattle. I'm going to. I haven't yet, but we're going to get up there at some point.
Yes, I want to.
we're gonna try it out.
Once they lift the travel bans, or
once the whole coronavirus thing is over with, yeah. So again, thanks guys for being on the show.
And it's been really fun too. Like this has been a welcome kind of change of pace from the past couple of weeks that have been quite stressful, right? From the coronavirus situation here, and just trying to manage that every day. So this has been kind of a welcome change of pace, and just talking to you guys, talking to a fellow entrepreneur about the trials and tribulations and the wins and challenges of entrepreneurship. So we really appreciate you guys, and we love the podcast, and like a lot of the sort of growth and success that we've seen has been thanks to us working with Notion Design Group
100%.
in 2019 to completely revamp our website and make it a story-branded website. So when we did our annual business review, end of year business plan and business review with our team in December, like we called that out as one of the wins. We were like,
awesome.
We, invested in like Notion Design Group, who are experts in StoryBrand and building a website that works. And it's been a huge success. And so we're so thankful for you guys.
Yeah, we have the data to prove it. I mean, we've seen a massive uptick in just like leads coming in the door.
Yeah.
Since we launched the new site. And so it's just awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
Thank you guys. I appreciate the plug, and I'm so excited. Again, that's what makes it worth it for us. So, thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
you're welcome.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and everybody, thanks for watching another episode of the Little Fish Podcast. We'll hope you'll join us next week, and have a good one.